So today I got a couple of games I'm going to review, but honestly, as I stepped back and looked at last week and then looking at this week, we actually have a lot of really good games coming out. Some dropped that we didn't expect to be really good, like Doomsday Hunters is amazingly underrated and really fun. Lisa, I expected to be pretty good, and it is pretty good. The other two games that I got, I think they're going to be really fun and interesting. I think a lot of people are going to be into them. And also, coming up this week, there's quite a few games that I'm looking into. By the way, also, Pikmin 4 dropped. So really, this was a crazy 2 weeks that I didn't expect to be as big as it was. And it's really cool that we got all these good games coming out. So looking at the first game that I picked up, called Spirit Hunters Infinite Horde. Now this is my type of game, which I've just discovered within the last year that I really love these auto attacker games where you just pretty much move the character and the attacks happen automatically. And you're usually surrounded by hordes and hordes of enemies. And you're left with navigating your character through these hordes of enemies so you don't get hit, while also killing enemies and collecting XP. I absolutely love these type of games. I just find them great palate cleansers and really fun and addictive. It's a nice change from RPGs or very narrative heavy games. Now in this one, essentially the world goes to hell. Literally. So your character and a bunch of other characters that you unlock are basically there just to clear all this corruption, to clear all these demons out, and to kind of free the world again, liberate the areas. Now, there is a ton of unlockables though, and that's what makes this game great. The first thing is just maps in general. So in each map, each location, there's also 4 sub-locations. And there's a bunch of sub-bosses and major bosses, or main bosses. And when you get to the end and you actually fight the main bosses, they're usually pretty simple compared to what you've already been through. Just getting to them is usually the hard part. At least that's been my experience. And once you beat them, then your run is officially over. You can upgrade then the difficulty, you can upgrade different maps, you can upgrade to different things. But the most important upgrade is just your base stats and your ability upgrades. So as you can guess, your base stats is basically what your character starts off with, and they're across the board. All characters get these base upgrades in their stats. For instance, more health, more attack power, things of that nature. That's the ones you really want to look out for, because they're going to make every run much easier, and you're going to constantly use pretty much every character, so the fact that they're all across the board actually really helps as well. Now, the ability upgrades, though, is a little bit different in the fact that each ability can be upgraded towards more powerful, or you get more of the item. For instance, like the spears. When you use the spears, instead of 4 popping out, 5 will pop out, and you don't have to use any of your on-field upgrades to change this. It'll just start off with those 5, or they'll do more damage, or there'll be less cooldown. All of those upgrades that you buy from the Oracle at the very end of the run are permanent upgrades, although I will say they are rather limited. So here's how a run would go. You would choose one of your characters, and then you get to choose one starting out power. And this is what I'm talking about. If you had upgraded them before, then they would have these permanent boons to them, essentially. More power, less cooldown, stuff like that. And then once you actually get out onto the battlefield, so to speak, the more characters that you kill, the more XP you get. Every level you gain, you get to choose something, either a new ability or an ability upgrade. Now these are not permanent, and they go away as soon as you die. But this is kind of where the strategy of these type of games takes hold, because you kind of want to decide, is it best to be an AoE attacker, or should I focus on more direct attacks, like bow and arrow kind of attacks? Now, you have a plethora of them, and you can choose how you do it. You can even re-roll so that you can just put all of your upgrades into one certain weapon. And that works out really well. And for most of the people who know how these games work, you'll be able to easily figure this one out. Now, the only main difference I noticed with this game is the fact that there is a special ability each character has. When this gauge fills up, which is in the top left-hand corner, then you hit the A button, and your character, some of them will turn into demons of their own, and pretty much the enemies become your prey. Now these little abilities only last for maybe 10 seconds or so, but they are massive. They do out huge amounts of damage. But one of the witches, she'll just shoot this cyclops type beam out at all the enemies, and you can move her around just sweeping the whole area of enemies. All of them have some sort of ability like that, and they all work really cool, and again do massive damage, and they can really help you out in a tight spot. Now ultimately, I would say when you're looking at all the upgrades, all the unlockables, this game is probably easily 20 to 30 hours at least to unlock everything. And it's kind of cool to see how much there really is, because you can look at the board, or you can look at your analytics, and you can see just how much there is to do. Ultimately, I really enjoyed this game. In fact, this is one of those games that is going to be staying on my Switch for quite a while. Graphically, it looks wonderful. I appreciate all of the different boards and the upgrades that you can do, and I've had no problem at all with performance. ultimately, I would say this game is a 8 out of 10, and it's only $9.99. I just feel like this game really got it right. Like, there is a ton of these kind of automatic attack games, including like Vampire Survivor and all of those, but for me, graphically, this one just speaks to me more, and all of the upgrades, and this game will just keep you going and keep you engaged for a very, very long time. Another new game that came out this last week was Sword of Glory. This game is typically $14.99, and right now it is $3.99, and it is definitely worth it. That $3.99, I don't know if I agree that it'd be worth the $15. I think there's some life to this game. It has a pretty cool little loop, but I do feel like it might get repetitive. So essentially, the story of this game is you play as Death's son, and essentially, you can't die. So in many ways, it's a roguelike. Well, you go to each of these towns that are in this world, and you liberate them, so to speak, and become their champion. Now, while you're doing so, you also upgrade the town. You'll upgrade the arena where you fight, upgrade the stores, you'll be able to upgrade their training facilities, and you'll be able to train to go in with boosts and things of that nature. And for the most part, the arena fighting is pretty fun. It does kind of have a little bit of that stamina-based Souls-like game combat, which doesn't always work well in this game. There are some issues with that, but for the most part, it is pretty fun, pretty responsive. I will say that is not without its problems. One of them is graphics. Graphics are pretty cheap, and they could be upgraded, I can tell you that. But also, the biggest one for me was the fact that the block didn't always work, and they didn't always explain the difference in character. I did figure out that since I use kind of a fast character, that your block isn't as good. And so it was easier to parry or to, roll around than it is to block, but they don't really express that when they're, running you through the tutorial. And I will say the nice thing about this game is you're not stuck with one character. So after you become the champion in a town, you actually have to fight the champion, and a lot of times you die. In fact, you actually have to die. And you get reborn again, and you can choose a different warrior from that aspect. Like, it can be just a complete stealth guy, and like, all he is speed, or a really slow guy but really powerful. So there's always that ability to change directions if you feel like, this character just doesn't work with me, this fighting style isn't something I'm good at. You have multiple chances of switching that up. So I really do like that aspect of the game. I also like the fact that there's a little bit of like sim life in this game, where you do make friends and you do worry about upgrading your arena and all the stores around you and even your training facilities. The fact that you can kind of do that is pretty fun. And like I said, I think there's enough to this game where it's decent. Like, I would solidly give it a 6 out of 10. I'd say it's definitely worth the $3.99 price tag, because I think most people will get at least a few hours of fun out of this game. For me, I'm probably not going to keep it, but I've been playing it for enough that it is now starting to get kind of old. I've been through that rotation quite a bit now. So yeah, I appreciate the Souls-like combat, and I think it works pretty good. It definitely could use a patch. Like I said, the controls are they're a little loose at times, and sometimes you don't feel like you're blocking, even though you are blocking. It has some little hang-ups, but it's not bad. And I would definitely say it's worth it at $3.99. But anyway, that's just some of the new games that I picked up and playing. I'm working on a review for Pikmin 4, as well as some other games. So look forward to those. And of course, we got our sale video coming out here in a couple days. Either way, I'm curious what you guys think about these games. Are you interested in any of them? These typical games that you like or you don't like? Anything and everything. Which games are you playing? What new games are you looking forward to? All of that. I want to hear from you down in the comment section. And remember, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. You could win $1 million. I mean, not by hitting those buttons, but you could also win $1 million. It's possible. I'm just saying, be positive. I'm saying I'm giving away $1 million, but hit those buttons, and also you could win $1 million. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, I love you guys. Take care. Bye-bye.